I didn't have all my show notes up like a fucking idiot. This is what happens when I record solo. I end up screwing up really small things. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to What the Hell Should I Watch? I'm Steve Stebbing. Chloe's off this week. We are the weekly rundown of what we're watching, which may become what you're watching, and we come at you every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time on stevestebbing.ca. And this week, as promised, I have the last of the blockbusters, I would say, aside from Nosferatu, but this was an attempt to try and recreate the 2023 success with Barbieheimer or Barbenheimer, or however you want to say it. They tried it this time with Glicked, Wickiator. Either way, it wasn't as awesome as the aforementioned doubleheader. But let's get into that. It's fresh for your eyeballs. All right, and I was trying to figure out where to start between these two films, and I might as well go in order of which I saw them. So I did the musical first because apparently I'm a glutton for punishment, even though I hate musicals. This is Wicked. Felba, a misunderstood young woman because of her green skin, and Glinda, a popular girl, become friends at Shiz University in the land of Oz. After an encounter with the wonderful Wizard of Oz, their friendship reaches a crossroads. Starring Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande Butera, Jonathan Bailey, Ethan Slater, Bowen Yang, Marissa Bode, Peter Dinklage, Michelle Yeoh, and Jeff Goldblum. Directed by John M. Chu. So yeah, I'm not really a big musical guy, but I promised my wife that I would go see this with her on the first screening that they showed it. So of course, at my local theater, they did both Wicked and Gladiator II, but I had to opt for this one first. First off, let's just get the bad stuff out of the way. For me, is the runtime. 2 hours and 40 minutes does feel a little bit punishing, and feels pretty extra when you realize that this is only part one of two films. And assuming that the next film is just as long, I would assume, hopefully maybe a little bit shorter, but even if it is, this could clock over 5 hours long as a complete one movie thing, and I doubt the Broadway musical runtime was anywhere close to 5 hours. That said, I actually, to my shock, enjoyed this movie. I kind of think that Ariana Grande is kind of cute. I think she does have some comedic timing, and both women are incredible singers, and there are huge moments, and I think every one of these songs where the actor gets to hit the extent of their vocal power, I think. And the fact that they did on-set singing for this movie help it a lot. It takes away from that lip syncy look that musicals can have sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't work out, like Les Miserables. It didn't fully work out, but I can still appreciate it a lot more than one that's kind of overdubbed with the songs. But I'm kind of burying the biggest part of this movie, which is Cynthia Erivo, who, for me, I mean, I wasn't huge on the Harriet biopic. It just didn't really leave an impression on me. And I mean, Widows is a great film, but it's definitely an ensemble thing. This is Cynthia's movie, and she never lets you forget that. She's got absolute power and conviction in her performance, and her singing voice is amazing, just absolutely amazing. She is the story of this film. Her and Ariana Grande are really the story of this film. Plus, I mean, pretty solid set design and set construction and everything. Um, with CG to help out certain elements and everything, but I think it makes it a more immersive experience. Maybe it was the fact that I took a pretty good gummy to watch this movie, but I was like locked in. I was in for sure. But yeah, at the end of the day, I enjoyed this movie. Jeff Goldblum gets a chance to sing and be Jeff Goldblum, because I'm sure that's exactly why they hired him. And I adore seeing Bowen Yang's face in movies. I adore that guy, and he's like my favorite part of Saturday Night Live right now. And yeah, again, to my surprise, I liked Wicked. So let's move on to the second part of that equation, and that is Ridley Scott revisiting the aftermath of Maximus in 2000's Gladiator. This is Gladiator II. After his home is conquered by the tyrannical emperors who now lead Rome, Lucius is forced to enter the Colosseum and must look to his past to find strength to return the glory of Rome to its people. Starring Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, Joseph Quinn, Fred Hetchinger, Leora Raz, Derek Jacobi, Connie Nielsen, and Denzel Washington. Directed by Ridley Scott. So, 24 years after Russell Crowe's Academy Award winning turn as Maximus, we return to Rome and return to this character of Lucius. Although this fact that the synopsis calls him Lucius is in itself kind of a spoiler, even though you know it from the trailer. They play with Paul Mescal's character. He doesn't know it until a good journey into the film. But enough about the plot of this movie, because it is just such an easy legacy overlap of the first film. But the thing is you don't give a shit about any of the characters this time. They don't do a good enough job to set anybody up, and it's just an utter bore fest, like borderline, like sleepy boring actioner that is everything we've seen before and nothing new brought. I feel like there was a point where in the marketing they said that this boasted one of the biggest action scenes or something, and I didn't see anything that squashed those expectations at all. There's also a naval battle in the middle of the Colosseum, complete with CGI sharks. There's a lot wrong with this movie. The acting is not one of them. Every actor in this one is giving their best and bringing their best. And I hope that, well, I mean, this film is still 72% certified. So the fact that I hope none of these actors carry the burden of being in this shit movie with them. Clearly, I am one of the minority on this one that didn't like this movie at all, but I just thought it was goofy and dumb. And I was like at a certain point waiting for this movie to end. And I thought it was shot in kind of a boring way as well. It just could have been done better, and it just answers that question. Should we have gone for Gladiator 2 after 24 years? No, probably not. Not if it's this. But given this movie is successful in some shape or form over the holiday season, apparently Ridley does have a Gladiator 3 ready to go. So I don't know. I'm not interested in it anymore. Although I love Paul Mescal, and Denzel Washington's line deliveries in this one are just like he's in a new phase of make money before I cash it in type of mode, I think, and it shows in this film for sure. All right, so let's move on to stuff that you can watch at home on your Blu-ray player. So right on the blue this week, and I'm digging into a 4K that was released, I think, in September. I think they tried to capitalize on the Halloween season, but I was a little late to it, and I took it in not too long ago, and it is a landmark. I mean, a establishing tentpole film, the film that birthed New Line Cinema. It's A Nightmare on Elm Street in 4K. Teenager Nancy Thompson must uncover the dark truth concealed by her parents after she and her friends become targets of the spirit of a serial killer with a bladed glove in their dreams. In which they die, it kills them in real life. Starring John Saxon, Ronnie Blakely, Heather Langenkamp, Amanda Wes, Nick Corey, Johnny Depp, and Robert Englund. Written and directed by Wes Craven. I mean, yeah, I'm late to the 4K release, but this movie still hits like exactly like I said. Like it's an icon that kicked off a franchise. Each film trying to be as good as that first film, as Wes made that first film. Um, it's still Heather Langenkamp's a great center, like a central character. Young Johnny Depp, his first, I believe that's his first on screen. That's his first film role for sure. I don't know if it's his first on screen role. Pretty sure it is. And I mean, this is what really established Wes Craven. And yeah, like I said, it built Robert Shea and New Line as a company, as a film company. So it's really the granddaddy of them all. Looks great in the 4K transfer. Some of those effects are obviously aged, but just like I said with Terminator, they've aged, but you still have like a nostalgic connection with it. And I still really love that last scene and the mom getting pulled through the door. It's just such an effective final jump scare. So Nightmare on Elm Street is still an absolute classic. Let's move on to me cracking into my box set for Succession. The Roy family is known for controlling the biggest media and entertainment company in the world. However, their world changes when their father steps down from the company. Starring Hayam Abbas, Nicholas Braun, Brian Cox, Kieran Culkin, Peter Friedman, Natalie Gold, Matthew McFadden, Alan Ruck, Sarah Snook, Jeremy Strong, Rob Yang, Dagmara Dominicic, Arian Moyed, J. Smith Cameron, Justine Lupe, David Rash, Fisher Stevens, and Alexander Skarsgård. Created by Jesse Armstrong. This is also available on Crave. And this was sent to me a while back by Allied Vaughn Moviesing. And it is one of the must-own TV shows, I think, in the last 5-10 years. Like, it's one of those landmark shows. I think I call it a film there. It's not a film, it's a show. And I think me digging into it again is probably directly related to the fact that I didn't get a real pain in my city here. Jesse Eisenberg's new film that he wrote and directed, and has Kieran Culkin in it. Because Kieran Culkin as Roman in Succession is my absolute favorite character. And yes, I totally understand that he's an absolute piece of shit, but that's kind of why I love him. And this show's really great. I've only seen the first little bit. I haven't actually seen the entire series. So getting this box set was actually like movie and TV gods gift to me, facilitated through Allied Vaughn and Movie Zing. So thank you to them. Let's move on to easier stuff that you don't have to buy because you probably already got the streaming service. Alrighty, the streaming pile. I got a few cool ones. One I've been sitting on for a little bit as I shift in my seat. I've been literally sitting on it. And I've been excited to talk about this one. But it's weird because Marty Scorsese, the producer and kind of co-director on this one, usually known for Rolling Stones stuff or Bob Dylan. Although there is the George Harrison documentary, Living in the Material World. Anyways, this is Beetle 64. Captures the band's electrifying 1964 US debut amid fan frenzy. With rare behind the scenes footage, it chronicles their unprecedented rise to global superstardom after performing on The Ed Sullivan Show to over 73 million viewers. Starring John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. Directed by Dave Tedeschi. Available on Disney Plus. Yes, to add to the ever-growing Disney Plus catalog that is just immense at this point, and kind of like in an interesting tandem with Get Back, and I'll explain that in a second. There's an interesting documentary here of the Fab Four on their like eye-opening journey to the U.S. to, like it says in the synopsis, superstardom, to scream, like literally like women fainting and screaming in front of you. Coming from England to a completely new experience. And this is a more brotherly and cohesive Beatles than we'd seen in Get Back. Get Back was like the end of the story where everyone wanted to move on and Paul just still wanted to make like the great record to go out on. And this one is, I think there's just like a bit more of a naivete, like less the world, the full rounded worldview wasn't there yet. So to see that innocence, and in some ways the opening of their eyes to the impact that their music had is cool to see. And as a Beatles fan, I feel like this is a must see. If you just like a music documentary, I think you would be into this one because this is also about impact, the impact that the Beatles at themselves as a band, as human beings, and as creators had on people and had on generations. And I think it's a fascinating look in that way. Moving on to some drama on, well, I guess it's drama. This show has just so many wide arcing arms to it. Maybe it's a thriller, maybe it's a mystery. Like it's a lot. It's disclaimer. Follows Catherine Ravenscroft, a television documentary journalist whose work has been built on revealing the transgressions of long-respected institutions. Starring Cate Blanchett, Kevin Kline, Sacha Baron Cohen, Leslie Manville, Louis Partridge, Layla George, and Cody Smith-McPhee. Created by Alfonso Cuarón. Available on Apple TV+. So this is contained 7 episodes. I think Apple TV has weird show run lengths, so I'm pretty sure it's 7 episodes. And yeah, Cate Blanchett is like a documentary maker. She basically takes down big business people. A book is written by a man in the UK, and it has direct correlations to her younger life, exposing a marital scandal within, which kind of leads to the butting of heads between her character and the author of the book, Kevin Kline. And the show is done very unconventionally. It's very flighty, very, I mean, we're talking about the guy that did Roma. Like it has that kind of quality to it. Its execution is like nothing you would have seen on TV or maybe even like HBO, like cable. Like this is a show that feels like it takes the freedom that streaming has, especially a streaming service like Apple TV Plus that has such a mishmash of different ideas when it comes to their catalog. And I feel like Disclaimer fits into a whole different category on its own. Like I was saying at the top, it's really hard to genre define. The one thing I'll say is it's definitely not comedy. But I have been told, because I'm still making my way through the series, and I'd like to bring it back again once I've finished it. I've heard that episode 3 is like the sexiest episode of television in the last 10 years, which sounds like hyperbole, but don't you kind of want to find out if it's not? So yeah, I'm gonna start making my way through it. There's just so much good stuff, and especially on Apple TV, there's a lot of good stuff on there. All right, let's move on to something that's like I'm gonna be ironically talking about, I guess on a YouTube show on the internet, but this show is a show about unplugging, and it's called Penelope. A 16-year-old who feels alienated from contemporary civilization is pulled into the uncharted wilderness and starts to build a new life for herself there. Starring Megan Stott. Created by Mark Duplass and Mel Eslin. Coming soon to Netflix. Yeah, so this is like a show that's like in some kind of weird limbo. It is already available to stream on Netflix in the States. So if you're in Canada and you can use your American VPN, you can watch Penelope. But if not, you're kind of hooped until whenever Netflix Canada is going to, at some point, upload it. Like it's there. It's produced by them, assumedly, so it should be available for anybody to watch. But that said, it's a Mark Duplass production, so that was my interest in it right there. And Mark Duplass in the last few weeks is having kind of like a fun time if you're in the know on his works, because Shudder has the Creep tapes, which is the follow-up series to the Creep movies, which are fantastic. Quote unquote found footage horror. If you've never seen them before, they are just phenomenal, and films that for me, like the first film, just like came out of nowhere and just completely knocked me over. But massively massively different than Penelope. Penelope is at its heart a family show. It's about a girl that goes through the frustration of her parents, the daily grind, all of that stuff, and decides that I'm just going to be a nomad and just blend into the scenery and go live in the woods. And it's a show that I feel like you can almost like live vicariously through, because who hasn't wanted to just shed everything and go live with the bunnies in the forest? Like, it's just sometimes we feel like that, so I totally get it. But Megan Stott is an interesting little actress. I think that she neatly carries this show on her shoulders, and I'm guessing that it's just going to be a quiet rollout for whenever it does hit Netflix Canada. So maybe it'll be a show by word of mouth that you could that you'll come across one day. But I think it's a good family one, and it's there's not many of those right now, so I would definitely recommend it. All right, so let's talk about. I mean, I got possibly the sweetest Christmas holiday parcel from Warner Brothers, so I can't wait to talk about it because it's new to the library. That's right, new to the library this week, and yeah, it's just a sweet little box full of goodies. The first thing that they sent me was the original cartoon, Boris Karloff voiced Dr. Seuss, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This movie is just an absolute classic. I'm not here to review it. I won't be here to review it. We all know what this movie is like. We indoctrinate generations and generations with this movie because it's just a fun little animated film, and I mean, the music's great. Next up, and I was really, 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 really excited that I actually got this, because when it initially came out, I didn't get one, and I was like bummed out by it. But they sent me the Friends Complete series, 4K, baby. 10 seasons plus a couple of Blu-rays full of special features, documentaries, and all that stuff. It doesn't have the Friends reunion on it, I don't think, which is kind of like a bummer. If I were going to say that there was one takeaway that I'm not into, it's that they didn't include that special in it, because I feel like they should, especially because it's like one of the last times we got to see Matthew Perry. So what gives? Another one on DVD. This isn't a Blu-ray, but they gave me Captain Planet and the Planeteers Complete series. And this is a cartoon that I grew up with. So when I saw it on the docket to pick up, I was like, hell yes. And for obvious reasons, every time I think of this show, I think of Robot Chicken and Ted Turner.
You got glass in my eye!
And my foot in your balls, Captain Planet!
Yeah. And lastly, in the library, and this kind of like takes things that I already had before and smushes them together in one box set. I got the Looney Tunes Collector's Choice, a volume 1 through 4 set. So I know I've brought other volumes to this show before, but this one is all of them put together, so it's even better. So take that review and just times 4. Like it's awesome times 4, and it's got all your Looney Tunes shit that you would need. Any Bugs Bunny, Porky Pig, Daffy Duck, all the good shit, all of the good Looney Tunes shit. Okay, enough creepiness there. And there's one other thing that is new to the library, but I just rolled it into another segment. Yeah, so that's right. Now that it's over, House of the Dragon Season 2, an internal succession war within House Targaryen at the height of its power, 172 years before the birth of Daenerys Targaryen. Starring so many people that I'm not going to say their names, all of them right now, and Chloe would be really mad that I took out this cop-out. Created by Ryan Condal and George R.R. Martin. Available on Crave. TV just takes me a little bit. I don't get to finish it exactly when it ends, and sometimes it piles up, and then I just bring it to the show later. But my hopes, when I originally said that this show is back weeks and weeks ago, I said that this show needed to find its footing as its own show within season 2. And I think it does that. And it did that in kind of breaking its own rules a bit and the lore rules a bit. And I think it's better because of it. So if you haven't seen House of the Dragon season 2, just like fast forward for like 15 seconds right now. But they let basic normies fly dragons, and it's a development that I really, really found myself fascinated by, and just what it would take for these dragons to basically cuddle up to a normie and not someone of the dragonborn line. I think that's very fascinating. I was bummed out by some of the deaths in it, especially some of the older characters. One in particular, I love Eve best, so I was really bummed about that one. But I'm still in for whatever Ryan Condal and George R.R. Martin will begrudgingly give us in George's case. I'm excited for what comes next, so I guess we'll see in 2 years or whatever the hell long it'll take to get another season of it. All right, so that brings us almost to a close of this episode, but what are we going to talk about next week? All right, so we're assuming the position of going back to week-old movies, and I think by the point of this one's a 2-week-old movie, and I can't lie, it's a Christmas movie, and it's a rock movie. I'm not looking forward to it. It's Red One. I don't know, Chris Evans is in this one, J.K. Simmons, but there's just nothing about this movie and nothing about the reviews and words from my friends that have already seen it that make me remotely excited for this movie. And I'm just kind of bummed that this is the only option I have. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit and watch Moana 2 as a grown man by myself because my daughter won't go. This is the conundrum I'm in. I hope it's relatable. But that brings us to a close this week. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, Threads, and Blue Sky at The Stevel Dead. You can find Chloe at HoneyBunChloe on Letterboxd. And you can find this show and all the episodes on stevestebbing.ca and on the YouTube page. Just search Steve Stebbing or at The Stevel Dead. And you can hear us on shiftheads.ca. You can also hear me on Shane Hewitt and the Night Shift every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on News Talk 1010 in Toronto and on the iHeartRadio network. So that empties out our list for this week. We got to fill it up again. So until then, bye-bye.